Welcome back to Around the Clock. It's time for our Around the Town tour. We're going to be starting at the Ashland Library for the Net Zero Forum that happened back toward the end of April. The Net Zero Forum was put forward by our Sustainability Committee. They are looking to put an article on town meeting, come fall town meeting, to create a resolution that Ashland would become a net zero community, and that relates to our energy use, by 2040. Originally they had come to the Board of Selectmen to try and put the warrant on the spring town meeting. We felt more education needed to happen, and this Net Zero Forum was the first step of that education. We were able to get some information from the organization as they presented their forum, but we also got to talk to some of the residents in attendance. So let's go take a listen at what happened at the Net Zero Forum.
I think the most important thing I learned is that no one piece of this puzzle is by itself, and that each group had a hard time just isolating its particular program, and we need to look at the thing as a holistic issue and approach it from all the different sides at once. So, and I'm particularly interested in the building side and planning board and stuff, and that covers it all.
Honestly, I got so much data that it's hard to pick one thing, but I think the one thing that I learned is that this town has a group of people with a vision, and we have leadership, and I thank the people who made it happen and our town leaders for supporting it. I learned a ton.
So my takeaway from this was really just how important it is to think about energy efficiency and keeping a net zero approach in mind with everything that we do in town, whether it's development, whether it's residential, that it's really imperative to communicate and make sure that we're all moving in the same direction towards a net zero community.
I thought this was really an inspiring meeting tonight, because we came up with a lot of great ideas, and really practical approaches to achieving net zero and addressing the urgency of climate change. And I think I just couldn't help comparing it to our experience with Eversource. Instead of expanding a gas pipeline, they should be talking to us about how to achieve net zero, and they wouldn't necessarily have to do this gas pipeline replacement, this expensive replacement and expansion project.
Thanks to Mackie for going out and getting that footage for us, as well as talking to some of the residents. And again, if you have more information or more information that you would like, please reach out to our Sustainability Committee, and they'll be more than happy to share some of that net zero information with you. We're going to go from the Ashland Public Library over to Stone Park. It was a little bit of a rainy Saturday morning, but we were able to have a ribbon cutting for some new dugouts over at Stone Park, thanks to some CPC funds, as well as to our Public Works Department. There were some new dugouts put up at Stone Park to make those fields a little bit more comfortable for our baseball and softball players to use. Typically on that day, we would have also shown you the baseball parade that happens for the first day of baseball here in Ashland. Unfortunately, because it was a rainy day, they decided not to have the parade. But games have started, so you'll be hearing them and seeing them at Stone Park and at Grinsell as well. From Stone Park, we're going to go to the Ashland High School. This is for the event Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk. There is a group at Ashland High School that feels it's very important, as do many of us, to talk to youth and to raise funds to prevent suicide. This is a group of students from National Honor Society, as well with their counselor, Mary Beth Gallant, the librarian at the Ashland High School. Congratulations to the students for running that walk. Hopefully you've reached your goal, and as always, thank you to all the participants and citizens of Ashland who turned out to support them. We are going to go from the high school back to the library. The library has been very busy in evenings with all these different forums and meetings, and of course, if you haven't been to our library lately, you should check it out. Not only do they have great books to rent, but they also have ebooks and movies and music, and it's just a great place to go and sit and read. So we're going to head back there for the Candidates Forum. This happened on Monday, April 30th. I believe, yes. It was a two-part forum. There were two sections. The first section was for those candidates who are not in contested races. So members of our school committee who are up for re-election, as well as members of our Board of Health and our Board of Assessors and our library trustees who will be on the ballot in May, but they are not contested, had the opportunity to answer some questions and just talk to the public about why they're running again and why it's important to them to be candidates and to support the town of Ashland. From the first part, we took a little break and then we started with our two contested races. There are 4 people running for the Board of Selectmen and 2 people running for the Planning Board. Board of Selectmen candidates are Adam Elbert, Brandy Kinsman, Joe Mignani, and Jane Stefanini. And then for Planning Board, there are 2 people running for 1 seat are Kate Jerzyk and Tricia Kendall. The candidates had the opportunity to answer questions and again state why they're running, what they see for Ashland. Let's take a listen to some of the statements that they made.
In the recent past, there have been proposed development projects which have met with opposition from the neighborhood. For example, Robert Hill Way, 133 West Union, the Rail Transit District, 128 Main Street, and the Dunkin' Donuts on Pond Street. The Planning Board reviews projects and rules on their compliance with all applicable laws. The residents often want to protect the character of the town and sometimes their neighborhood specifically. If elected, what would you do to try to prevent these conflicts? And how would you try to fairly reconcile developers' rights and the rights of Ashland's residents? Kate?
So I think people who know me know I do stand for public involvement, and I think some of these projects that have had opposition are that we didn't do our best job involving the public and communicating with them early on. And that led to just disappointment and problems with them. So I think if we work to get a better process of establishing a way for people to have input early on, that will help. And I also think this is where community outreach and understanding is very important, because there are certain things that are very prescriptive by the planning board. It either meets the zoning or not, and the planning board should be following the zoning. That's why you elect them. That's why we have zoning, and that's why we should have a very good process to change zoning, which I think we've fallen a little bit out of that and maybe haven't kept up. So I think that would help with those issues. And then, again, educating the public, there are certain things that are just allowed by property rights, by state law. And if people understand them, I think that will help understand when the planning board can make different decisions. And lastly, involving the public on any project still will bring out many issues that maybe just the 5 people on the planning board hadn't thought of. So we absolutely need the public involved.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Tricia?
Yeah, I agree with many of the things Kate said. It's really important to understand that there are certain things that a property owner in a democratic country can do by right as long as they are following the existing zoning regulations. Now, it's our job as a community to decide under state regulations as well, of course, but to understand what we want as our local regulations and our local zoning. As an architect, I work in many different communities and have to study their zoning bylaws, all the different things that they have that try to govern their communities so that they can grow and develop in a way that they feel proud of, that they like. And I think this is something that Ashland is starting to do, but probably needs to take a closer look at in these areas, especially in downtown, along 126, areas that we're really thinking that have possibilities for development. And what do we want them to be as a community? How do we want those areas to be areas that we can be proud of as they develop into things that also can help our community economically?
Residential taxes have skyrocketed over the years. While revenue from development agreements may temporarily increase revenue, those special payments don't occur every year and fade away just as the stresses on public services begin to be felt. As numerous cost of community services studies have shown, increased tax revenue from new development does not cover the cost of providing services to those new residents. Property taxes put many Ashland families, especially seniors on a fixed income, under severe financial pressure. The town has non-negotiable financial obligations, such as OPEB, and some inherent structural budget strains. What ideas do you have to ensure the same level of services, the town's ability to meet its obligations, and potentially provide some tax relief to all residents, especially seniors? Would you be willing to look at alternative revenue sources, such as advocating to the state to allow towns to create a local progressive income tax based on an ability to pay, which could gradually supplant real estate taxes? And I'm going to ask Jane to start with that.
I'm glad you did, thank you, because again, this is near and dear to me, and I think, answered a lot of that with my prior question. I respectfully disagree that bringing in commercial business would not move the needle. It doesn't affect retail. It wouldn't take jobs from retail space. It doesn't have anything to do with downtown Ashland redevelopment. And in fact, it would add to that. It would add money to the coffers, so to speak, by bringing in a corporation. I mean, if you look at what Hopkinton did with EMC, and I know that's a one-hit pony, and if, God forbid, EMC left Hopkinton, they'd be in big trouble. But, you know, a company like that we could try to attract from Boston, where the rates are so high for the lease rates, to attract a company like that out here to bring jobs 9 to 5 would not affect the infrastructure, would not affect the school system, really would not affect the day-to-day infrastructure of our town, but would add revenue and would allow us to hopefully increase the commercial coffers to offset the residential burden.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I do agree with what some of the things Jane has just mentioned in her response. One of the concerns that I do have is that we don't own a lot of land, and the land that is owned and it's currently being utilized by current business owners are not being very cooperative with what the town would like to see happen in reaching out and providing opportunities for new businesses that come into town. They're there to make money. We could think about giving them incentives, tax breaks and tax reliefs for that way to draw businesses in. But you take it from one pocket, you have to replenish it in another pocket, and where is that going to come from? So it's like a catch-22. We have these concerns, but at the same token, we have to monitor the growth of the entire town, not just individual homes and projects, but similar commercial space. And again, the town doesn't have that luxury of having that. And I agree, EMC is a one-hit pony. And then Legacy Farms is another aspect that we as a town are being affected by the transportation issues. And anybody that goes to work in the morning between 6 to 7 or tries to get to the train station by 5 o'clock, good luck, because the traffic is just going to get worse. But to go back to the question at hand, again, tax relief, try to work together with the new businesses that try to come into town. We did that with the folks that purchased the old Timex building, the old General Electric building. They've been very cooperative with us and working together with us. And if we can get that same type of cooperation with other businesses and other business owners that own these large parcels of land, then and only then can we start bringing money back into the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandy?
So I think that we need to focus on redevelopment versus new development in town. I think that as we develop the 126 corridor, as we work on downtown, and we maybe look at some mixed use where we can put density downtown where it belongs, that rather than use open space. I've been down to the senior center. I've talked to the seniors. I know they're concerned about affordability. I know they're concerned about the tax rate. We need to have more affordable housing in Ashland. I think that's something that is a huge concern. I know that our current plan is that our housing plan keeps us at 4% for affordability currently, and we do need to make progress towards that 10%. So we are not subject to 40B developers swooping in and expediting the development process. We need to look at real creative ways and be strategic about what we do. And so I think it takes some creative thinking. I think that we've done some good things as far as, making an affordability plan and making sure that there's a 25% affordable component to any new development. I think that's going to be extremely important going forward.
Thank you. Adam?
Thank you, Roberta. Just as a side comment, if anybody's driven down South Street in Hopkinton, I think you'll say without a doubt that EMC absolutely affects the infrastructure of that town. It is an absolute logjam trying to get up and down that road. It affects the roads and everything around it from a plowing and construction point of view. So I think from a new business perspective, we need to find the right business for the right location, okay? It's not just the right business and shove it anywhere we can find it. We have a lot of vacant and unused locations that could be redeveloped and refurbished to put new businesses in there. On the affordable housing issue, I completely agree. Ashland has a much higher percentage senior population than a number of surrounding towns. I think we have started to do a better job of educating our seniors on the fact that there are circuit breaker and tax reliefs available to them to help defray the cost of taxes. What you'll see at town meeting coming with the Stormwater Initiative is a similar tax break available to seniors. So we are taking that into account to try and ease the tax burden on them. And I also think we need to continue to aggressively pursue state and federal grant money to offset some of those types of projects like we're doing with the downtown redevelopment, where we have $4 million coming in from the state, so that doesn't have to go against the tax levy or against the general fund from an overall perspective.
A big thank you to the candidates for turning out that night, as well as to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library and the group We Love Ashland for coordinating that forum. We had a great turnout in the library. If you didn't get a chance to catch it either in person or live stream, that is currently being played as well. So you can go back and rewatch that in case you didn't have the opportunity. And of course, if you have questions for any of the candidates, I'm sure you can reach out to them before you decide and make your vote on May 21st. Our last stop on our Around the Town tour is our Green Up Day. This is always the first Saturday in May. It was a little rainy this Saturday, but it's amazing how many people still turned out to come pick up their yellow bags to clean up their streets or other streets in their neighborhood. If you see those bags around, it's the yellow bags on the side of the road, and fortunately our Public Works Department goes and picks those up. A big thank you to the Green Up Ashland Day Committee for organizing, as well as Mark Oram from our Health Department for making this initiative so strong and so important. And of course, you don't need to have just Green Up Ashland Day to go and clean up Ashland or your street. Feel more than welcome to go and do it all year long. Well, that wraps up our Around the Town tour. As always, if you have an event that you'd like us to share, please make sure you reach out to us here at WACA-TV or Around the Clock, and we'd be more than happy to share your event with the citizens of Ashland.